Welcome to an edition of Rewatch Rewind, where I talk about media that has trampled its way into our lives for more than 30 years. Can you believe it's been 30 years since Jurassic Park was released? I'm in shock and awe, honestly, because I can't believe that it's been that long, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Thanks for stopping by. I have on my comfy pants, and as we go on this journey, we'll discuss how the film came to be as we know it, specifically how the cast got their role and some background about filming. We will even cover some of the things that happened in the year 1993, but then we have to jump forward to real life observations we can take away from the film. Here's where I put my disclaimer for you to fact check me or add more information in the comment section. I know there may have been some information I missed or something I got wrong, so feel free to share what you know. My sources and other links will be in the description box for further information. Jurassic Park stars Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and Richard Attenborough. They are the stars of this movie, but the dinosaurs are key players in this film as well. And they're the ones some are cute, but then there's some that are just here to ruin your day, here to cause terror in your heart. And one of the scenes that really sticks in my mind from this movie when I think about it is when Nedry, Wayne Knight's character, gets sprayed by the dinosaur. It's like, I'm not really sure why that's what I automatically remember, but that's just my top scene from this film before I even think about the T-Rex. So continuing to speak about scenes from the movie, let's talk about some of my favorite scenes. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie's quirky way of telling the audience how they were able to create the dinosaurs. It wasn't too sciencey, it wasn't too boring. I thought it was creative, and I like Mr. DNA. That's my guy. I thought he was just funny, his little accent and everything. He was entertaining. So in that whole scene where they're explaining how the dinosaurs come from the fossilized mosquitoes, they get the blood from them, they don't mention the dangers of the dinosaurs. But of course, the movie quickly showed you why they really shouldn't exist. They were extinct for a reason, and we should not be in the same timeline as them. So let's talk about the big guy. Okay, so we have the lawyer, Gennaro. He is already been introduced to us. He's supposed to be a part of the experts that come to this up-and-coming theme park, right? And he's in the car with the children, Tim and Lex. And they not only feel that the T-Rex is coming, but they hear his footsteps. It's very loud, and the movie does a really good job of putting you in that moment. So before they had even went out, the power was shut down. And I think Gennaro was in full denial because he says, maybe it's the power trying to come back on. No, I'm sorry, sir. The sound that you hear is not the power trying to come back on. It's terror, okay? But I can understand why you would want to deny that. So he proceeds to leave the car where, remind you, the children are. He just abandons them and he goes to a shack. I don't know what he thought was going to happen, but it didn't save him. This movie was stressing me out because of the children. I would not have trusted any adults ever again. Granddaddy, I'm going to love you from a distance, but you put us in this position, and no, you should never be able to see us again. Just send us the money. That's all you need to do. They were honestly in some messed up, traumatic situations, and I don't know, maybe because I work with children, I was just really focused on them. I just want the kids to be safe. But let me know in the comments below if I'm really weird for caring about the kids. Despite my secondary trauma, this film blew up and it did very well at the box office when it was released. Marketing and promotion was a factor in the film's success, which leads me to the trivia portion of this rewind. McDonald's started a supersized meal option to cross-promote for the movie. What was the name of the Jurassic Park option? T-Rex time, survival size, dino size, or adventure time? The answer will be at the end of this video, so stay tuned. 1993 was not just about supersizes. It was also the year women were wearing baby doll and slip dresses. Men could be seen rocking straight jeans and a preppy look. And also with hip hop's continual rise in America, you could also see some influence too from this genre. This was also the year that Nelson Mandela was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Toni Morrison she also won Nobel Peace Prize in Literature for her works such as Beloved, Song of Solomon, and Paradise. None of these books I've read. I'm not really familiar with her work, but let me know if you're a fan of hers, what book that you like the most. Michael Jordan retired from basketball this year. This was his first time. You notice I say first time, okay, because it only lasted for about 2 years and then he was right back in the game. This reminds me of Nicki Minaj. I feel like she said she's going to retire so many times at this point. And then for my little childhood hearts, Magna Doodles and Beanie Babies were released. Of course, we have to talk a little bit about some serious issues in these Rewatch Rewinds. I can't just let you have your escapism in peace. I know, I'm sorry. Well, not really sorry, but hey, it's a part of learning and growing and, this real world. You have to address real things. So I'll start off with the good news first, and then I guess we'll go into the more bad news. I wanted to highlight the story of Walter McMillan, who is reported to be one of the modern age's first death row exonerees. He was released in 1993 after working with the Equal Justice Initiative, which, if you don't know about JI, check out their website to see the work that they have done to get wrongful convictions overturned. Their write-up of McMillan's story will be in the description box. I learned about EJI and McMillan's story when I saw a movie called Just Mercy, which came out in 2019 and stars Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. I honestly didn't put the two and two together. Like, I saw the movie, and then when I was doing this rewatch, I just didn't put two and two together. So I had already known of his story from the movie, and then actually kind of got to learn some background information doing this rewatch. And then when I was doing the pictures, it was like, oh, this is his story. So if you haven't watched the movie, I definitely would recommend it. It's a movie that you may find yourself feeling angry while watching, so just putting that out there. But I still think it's worth watching despite the negative emotions you may feel, because it's like a righteous anger, a just anger, like it's something you should be upset about. So McMillan was a 45-year-old self-employed logger with no prior criminal history when he was accused in 1986 of the death of 18-year-old Rhonda Morrison, who was a dry cleaning clerk at the time. McMillan lived in a small town in Monroeville, Alabama, and after no leads for about 6 months, the police had to produce someone. They needed to make the arrest. They needed to make people feel safe again. So they ended up pressuring someone to make a false statement. And this person that they pressured already had a criminal history where, charges were being sought against them. So they had their motivation to go ahead and lie. McMillan was arrested and placed on death row, where he spent 15 months before he even went to trial. So this is unusual, for anyone who is wondering. Typically, if one is arrested, they only go to that section of prison dedicated to death row after they are sentenced, never before. So definitely had some injustice throughout this whole entire process. But one of the real kickers to this story is that Walter McMillian had people who could testify against the fact that he wasn't even in the area when the crime occurred. Like, they were able to say, yes, he was here at this event. And that didn't matter, which is sad. And he was convicted. So upon his release in 1993, Walter McMillian's case actually brought national attention to wrongful convictions. A lot of people weren't thinking that the justice system had these kind of flaws. And so it assisted other people in getting their cases re-examined and helped to release them as well. It's a story that has a positive end. It impacted other people. You know, it's definitely sad for Mr. McMillian. And so it definitely had to be highlighted because this was the same year that Jurassic Park was released. So we had to talk about it, but let's go ahead and take a breath. Let's reset and we'll get back to Jurassic Park. This movie was directed by Steven Spielberg, who was a fan of dinosaurs as a kid. So this film was a way for him to connect to a part of his childhood. Kind of like how these rewinds are for me, you know, just revisiting movies that I love and think about and still quote. This is kind of like my way of doing that. But supposedly, Spielberg and Universal bought the movie rights before the novel was even published. Spielberg leaned toward Michael Crichton's book, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, because it had a scientific perspective to it that made the dinosaurs seem more than monsters, more like animals and less like something that you should really just be horrified. It was like just a different perspective than I guess what had been put out there about dinosaurs. Kind of like, that one movie where it's about zombies, but the zombie, I think it's called like Warm Bodies or something like that. Anyways, where the zombie, you see he has a different side of him. He's like a little warm-hearted. So I guess it's kind of like that. Spielberg wanted the dinosaurs to look as authentic as possible, so he sought out experts in the industry such as Stan Winston, Mark Crash McCurry, and Jack Horner. So initially, stop motion animation was going to be used for the wide shots and to see the dinosaurs running. Stop motion involves moving a scaled item by a millisecond, capturing this movement so that the item appears as one motion. And if you've ever used like a flip or seen people do a flip book where they have like the person starting off at one position and then each page they kind of change, so when you flip through the book it makes it look like all one motion and action. So that's something that I used to see people do in middle school. So I don't know how popular they are, but yeah, it's kind of like that. Dennis Muren is the one who brought the idea to Spielberg about using computers to animate a better looking realistic dinosaur. When you see the full scale dinosaurs, that's the CGI. And when you see like their body parts, such as the foot of the T-Rex, that's the animatronics. Which to me, I feel like CGI has... I get it. It's the most popular thing, but I feel like the animatronics that were used in this film still look good. The quality is still, to me, like realistic. And sometimes the CGI, like I'm saying this because I'm thinking of Jurassic World. Like the CGI of the dinosaurs, it just looks so fake. Like it doesn't look as realistic as the original, which is kind of weird because this is the older film of the whole franchise. So with Dennis Muren suggesting this, of course that's what Steven Spielberg used. And one of the videos that I watched for this movie, some of the cast or crew were saying that I think they called it, we considered it Black Friday, or this is like the beginning of when the stop motion popularity is like when it started to end, because CGI would become the dominant source for things like this. So during the filming, the cast had to use their skills to the greatest extent. Spielberg wouldn't rehearse, so he was mostly directing the actors and actresses through their scenes. And Ariana actually reflected on this in an interview with Bobby Wygant. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. She would map out a scene from beginning to the end so that she knew exactly, how to come across and how to interact with her co-stars. So during one scene, Ariana actually shocked Sam Neill by pulling him down to a crash pad. So I'm going to play her talking about that.
We're filming the T-Rex paddock scene, and I was supposed to be climbing on the back of Sam Neill, and we were going to go down the cable, down the edge of the cliff of the T-Rex paddock. And I was always very focused on how the scene was supposed to go from start to finish. And so I had in my mind, okay, I know what we're going to do here. And I just was really sure of it, though I didn't really discuss it with Steven or Sam or anything. So the scene progresses, and Steven is sitting there watching at the monitor, right? And my mom is sitting near him watching at the monitor as well. At one point, they notice Sam's eyes get really wide as I pull him over the cliff, just because I thought we were going to continue the scene. I didn't know we were going to cut at that point. So, and of course, my mom looks over at Steven thinking, what happened to my daughter? She didn't know there was this huge 4-foot crash mattress down below, and I was fine. And Steven's laughing his head off. He thought it was hysterical. He knew precisely what I must have thought. And that was one of those times that made for a pretty great story.
To me, this shows that Ariana was comfortable enough on set to take charge creatively with the script and with her role. And Joseph Mazzalo actually backs her up. He says he remembers his time on set as a collaborative process. A lot of
respect for kids, and had a lot of respect for their talent, and their intuition. I always felt so much freedom with him. I always felt like I was a part of the collaborative process, that it wasn't just he was telling me what to do or he was talking down to me. It was always, what do you think? And what do you think we should do for this scene? And he trusted my ideas, and he let me do that.
And then my teacher tells me about this other book by a guy named Backer.
And he said, slammed on his face, and he slid. Good.
And it was that kind of relationship where I felt like a part of the gang rather than like an outsider looking in that I think brings out such great performances in children.
I think that's a good experience as a child, coming into the industry and having that experience, not of, people demanding you do X, Y, and Z, but letting you build on your acting skills. That's a good work environment. So the cast also had to use their acting skills and react and imagine what they would feel when looking at the dinosaurs, because the dinosaurs weren't always physically on set. So when they first enter the park and you get the big score, well, they're not physically there, so they have to imagine that. And I think that's kind of cool. I think it's pulling their acting skills and letting them imagine who their character is and letting them imagine what their character would do. I think that's what you want to see in acting, the ability to be creative and really bring the character to life. A lot of the scenes for the movie were shot on the set at the Universal Studios lot. The outside scenes were shot in Kauai, Hawaii. They actually chose Hawaii over Costa Rica, which is where the backdrop of the film is supposed to be. It's supposed to be in Costa Rica. But they chose Hawaii because it was just going to be easier to transport their equipment around the island. But they didn't know that Kauai would have its own complications. So Hurricane Iniki was a Category 4 natural disaster that hit the island and stayed hovering over the island for about 9 hours. This halted production on the last few scenes that were needed to complete the film. You can see some real shots of the hurricane in the movie. There was a lot of devastation in the Hawaiian community from Hurricane Iniki in the amount of around $3 billion. And even 30 years later, there's still some parts of the island that have not recovered. I'm going to show a news clip of the residents talking about all the damage.
Iniki ravaged the island of Kauai, causing billions of dollars in damage and destroying more than 1,400 homes.
KITV4's Shanila Kabir reports on the lessons learned by those who survived the storm.
I just remember the big picture glass windows in our living room flexing and breathing. The sound of the hurricane was not really able to be explained. Crunching, whistling and hissing.
Ron Agor was an architect at the time. He said 20% of the homes and buildings he worked with were completely destroyed. All that was left were slabs and a bathtub.
Along the coast, we saw buildings just obviously were picked up and pushed back a couple of blocks. And we saw roofs just torn out. And on the west side, we had winds of over 200 miles an hour.
Agor is currently working on rebuilding the Cocoa Palms Hotel that was severely damaged by the hurricane. He said what we can learn 30 years later is knowing the basic designs of our homes and base flood elevation numbers. Former Mayor Joanne Yukimura said Kauai residents were serious about being prepared for Iniki.
I think we had a very low mortality rate from the hurricane because people took it seriously. They took shelter.
As a Florida resident, I can definitely understand how devastating hurricanes are. I do live in the Tampa Bay area and have not had the extreme damage, I would say, such as other areas have. But when I visited Fort Myers this year, there was, I think that was from Ian, if I'm not mistaken, Hurricane Ian, and they were still, trying to recover and rebuild. So it takes a lot to build back a community when a hurricane happens. Jurassic Park was mostly received well by all, but one thing critics had a problem with was the difference between the film and the book, which is no surprise there. Some things include that there was an aviary on the island, but this will be used in later movies, so they kind of rectified that in future movies. Another change from the book to the film was Hammond's character, Dr. Hammond. In the book, he is more of a villain than we see in the film. He gets what's coming to him, but out of Spielberg's respect for Attenborough, he wanted his character to be liked. So he kind of, changed his character up. Technically he was still the bad guy to me, especially having his grandkids there. But, overall his character is likable. He's not rude. He's not, just super demanding like he could be. He's, not full of himself or anything like that. So Spielberg wanted to be able to leave an open door for Attenborough to return in a future film. Despite this controversy, the film did extremely well at the box office and was the first film to gross $900 million. When the film was released, it came with extensive games, toy lines, comics, and collectibles as part of the franchise, with Universal spending about $65 million on licensing and promotion. So they put a lot into this film. It's a classic, not only because of the work that they put in, but because of what Spielberg created. So let's talk a little bit about the actors and actresses. We're going to highlight Richard Attenborough, Joseph Mazzello, and Ariana Richards. I need to put this in my disclaimer. If I pronounce anyone's name incorrectly, I'm sorry. I apologize. If you want to correct me in the comment section, please feel free to do so. But, it's not, even in researching this film, people aren't really saying their names like that. And so I'm doing the best that I can. Okay. Okay, so Richard Attenborough will be first. He had a notable career as an actor from the 1940s to the 70s. And I actually got kind of sad when I read that he got his breakout role as Pinky Brown in John Booting's film adaptation of Brighton Rock. So Attenborough played this character, Pinky Brown, in the Garrick theaters for years before it was adapted into film. So he was very familiar with his character. He had the opportunity to try out different takes on the character. And the thing that I found heartbreaking is that I don't think enough people get recognized on Broadway and other theaters. I believe there are some passionate actors and actresses that, have gone to school, have studied the art, have made it their passion. And I think they deserve fame if they want it. Hollywood has its gatekeepers for sure. Attenborough had not acted in a film since 1979, where he starred as Colonel John Daintree in The Human Factor. And then he went on to star in this film, which to me, when I think of Attenborough, this is the movie in history that I know him for. Maybe other millennials knew him from roles prior to 1993, but this is how I was introduced to him. After this role, he played Kris Kringle in Miracle on 34th Street the following year. He continued to act until around 2001. I do want to mention that he has director, writer, and producer credits in his IMDb page. He's one of the 6 actors to win an Academy Award for Best Director, which he won for directing 1982's Gandhi. And this is funny because he beat out Spielberg for this award, with Spielberg directing E.T. Richard Attenborough died 5 days before his 91st birthday in 2014. At age 5, Joseph Mazzello followed the footsteps of his older sister, who at the time acted in commercials. He had some minor roles in Unspeakable Acts, Presumed Innocent alongside Harrison Ford, and a few other projects including Radio Flyer, before he landed the role of Tim in Jurassic Park. He auditioned to play Jack Banning in Hook. However, that role went to Charlie Korsmo due to Joseph just being too young for the part. And I guess he really did his thing in the audition because he made an impression on Steven Spielberg. And Spielberg created Tim's character so that Joseph could be cast in Jurassic Park. Joseph would work with Spielberg on several occasions, including the following Jurassic Park movies and in The Pacific, which is a miniseries about Marines. Joseph eventually went on to graduate from the University of Southern California with a degree in cinema and television production. After taking a brief break from acting, Joseph returned to film and has been cast in movies such as The Sensation of Sight, The Social Network, G.I. Joe Retaliation, and most notably Bohemian Rhapsody, where he played John Deacon. I definitely did not recognize him in Bohemian Rhapsody, but I'm glad to know that he's still acting. Joe has been pretty low-key in media since Bohemian Rhapsody, but he does have a YouTube channel called Joe Mazzello is Bored, and he's kind of active on Instagram. If you wanted to check out his most recent project, it's called Unexpected, and you can catch that on the Freebie app. Ariana Richards started her acting career at 7 years old when she played a ballerina in a hair salon commercial. She played in several roles such as Mindy in 1990's Tremors and Kimberly Mays in 1991's Switched at Birth. Parents' worst nightmare. The worst thing that could happen is your baby being switched. Fast forward to Jurassic Park. To audition for this role, Ariana had to pretend that a dinosaur was attacking her and essentially just scream her little heart out. Just scream. That was her audition process, which, it's simple, but that's a lot of, a big part of her scenes is her just yelling. Ariana started filming for Jurassic Park, but she also had an interest in painting. So during breaks, she would sneak away and, work on her art. So after Jurassic Park wrapped up, Ariana did have other acting gigs, but she eventually decided to retire from acting in 2001. It doesn't mean she doesn't have other credits after this time, but that's kind of the time where she made art her priority, and she completed a BS degree in drama and art. Supposedly, her family history can be traced back to Carlo Crivelli, an Italian Renaissance artist, which is nice that she can look back on her history and know, there's some influence there. So over the years, Ariana has racked up a lot of awards. She's a celebrated portrait artist, and she's been recognized plenty of times for her artistic contributions. I'll include her website in the description box if you want to check out some of her work. I didn't see any people of color in her gallery, so don't be surprised. As a person of color, we notice these things. But check out her website. I don't hold anything against her for, what she wants to paint. In my opinion, this film absolutely holds up 30 years later. I can see why they just won't let the franchise die. I mean, it's understandable. Like, this movie created its own moment in time when it was released, and you can still feel that magic to this day. I've been on this earth for a little minute, and I've seen a good amount of movies, a good amount of media, but Jurassic Park can still pull you into its world. It could still make you feel amazed and awe, like when you first see the dinosaurs. They look just right. They don't look too fake. They don't look too computerized, and the story keeps moving. So to me, it's not a dated film. It still feels modern. It still feels, up to date and everything like that, at least to me. So I rated this one a 4 out of 5 ice cream. We can debate about this in the comment section, but I rated it low because the kids had me stressed out. I'm trying to tell y'all. They had me stressed out, and I had to take some points off for that. I don't know. It was just taking me out of the movie because I'm like, please get these kids to safety. Why are they by themselves in this kitchen? This is just not right. But realistically, the film it's a 5 out of 5, but it's just a 4 out of 5 for me personally. Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna bring it back to a little serious tone here in the film to real life section. Some of this is personal, but like this part of the Rewatch Rewind is what I've observed. So I get irked when I see scientists, wealthy people with resources, using their money frivolously. And I only look at it in the context of, okay, I also see people dying, starving every day, homeless. And it's just like, I know that there's money out here. I just feel like it's such a weird world that we live in when you can have someone making so much and other people making so little. And I always actually think of like that the Batman Rises, I want to say, with Catwoman, where she is talking about how, the rich, you can't feel like you could always be on the top and nothing happen, Like one day there's going to be a reckoning. And I understand the irony of being critical of people that have money, people that have wealth, access to resources. I understand it's not my money. I shouldn't have a say. But I just know that they could adopt like several families and they would still have generational wealth. It's like, you don't have to store up that much money. Make the other generations work a little bit, okay? If you have the resource, help your fellow man. That's all I'm saying. Now, let's say tomorrow everyone wakes up and the roles are reversed and the less fortunate have the riches. I have to believe that their perspective would make a difference, and I think they would have that empathy to give out funds or help people more. But, maybe that's me just being naive. But I think, I just think perspective makes a difference. So this movie highlights a fictional park where dinosaurs exist. And I think this mirrors the world we live in today, where money moves the world, and it's such a motivator that humanity is a secondary value. Like, why do we need dinosaurs? You could use that money for something else. What are the dinosaurs being alive really going to do to help the child that needs food? Just let me know. I'm waiting. When we first meet the lawyer, his assignment was to come to the park, make sure everything was safe, and make sure everything was in order. His mission was safety, right? But it soon became the focus of him to look at the money aspect. This kind of mindset keeps the person thinking minimally. They're going to overlook problems. They're not going to question the safety protocols that they should be looking at as a lawyer who's supposed to be, focusing on liability. And even the expert that he brought, Malcolm, had a chance. Like, when he first saw the dinosaurs, his first thing was, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should. And I think that's a valid point. But of course, the dollar signs, they have a way of, blocking hearing, blocking reasoning. It's just money, 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 money. Important things get ignored that way. I honestly think scientists need to watch this movie every year as a part of their ethics training. As a social worker, we have to stay up to date on our trainings. I don't know if there's any other professions that have to do that, but this would definitely be helpful just to focus their intentions for the year on actually helping people. Don't waste your money on bringing dinosaurs back. I'm just saying, please don't do that. I get it, the pursuit of knowledge, pursuit of money, it goes far in this world, but I think people have to be a priority too. With this year's anniversary of 9/11, it was actually the first time that I was able to look into the events of that day. I was young when it happened, and the only thing I really remember was being picked up from school by my dad, and I knew like a little bit of what was going on, but as a child, not really understanding completely. And so one of the things that I learned was that some businesses, like hotels, were charging almost 3 times their rate to, the residents and visitors. And I just find that so disgusting. Like, I get it, you're a business, you have to make a profit, but don't do that. Like, this is a time where people are devastated, they don't know what's going on, they're experiencing things that you wouldn't even imagine someone should have to go through. And instead of being like, you know what, I'm gonna offer them a discount. I know that's so unrealistic, so let me take that off the table. I know people are going through a hard time. I'm gonna keep my rates what they are. Maybe add a little extra customer service on top. Charge what you charge. I understand it's your business, but don't take advantage of people, especially when you know that they are desperate. Like, this is the type of greed that I'm trying to highlight in this real life observation portion, because it's the misuse of the power that happens every day that's just unacceptable. And who am I? If I was in a position, I'm not saying I maybe wouldn't, but again, I think it's the perspective piece. I'm a person that comes from the world that I come from, and I know, people have to be prioritized. And I would think, interacting with people on a regular basis, you would just not want to screw them over like that. But I'm not only calling out the scientists, not only calling out the people in power, but I think it would be beneficial for the common person to start helping their fellow person. Do what you can. Volunteering is free. And, I myself have gotten away from volunteering over the years since the pandemic has started. I definitely want to get more into the mindset of making it a priority. I'm not somebody who has a lot of money, you know, I don't have a lot of money, I got a lot of moolah. I can volunteer my time, and there are plenty of organizations that, you know, you can look up and, you know, at least one time a year giving back your time. I mentioned the Equal Justice Initiative earlier, and if you go on their website, they actually have information on how to find your local agency that does similar work to them. So check that out, you know, if you're interested. But let's say you don't have free time and you're not going to make the time. I think looking for opportunities to help people, that goes a long way. Tipping when you can, even at fast food restaurants. I know that's a hot take. I know people are like, oh, well, the company should be paying them. Okay, we know they're not. Unless you're going to get out and volunteer your time by picketing for them. It is what it is. So you can feel free to disagree in the comments, but this is just the world that we live in, and it's not going to hurt you to give $1 or $2. That's just my opinion, though. So take what you will from it. That's why I say the volunteering is free, because if you disagree very strongly with paying for people when their, you know, companies should be paying for them, then okay, volunteer. Easy peasy solution right there. And yeah, so I'm gonna end on this call to action. I appreciate you so much for, you know, coming on this journey back to 1993 and doing this Rewatch Rewind with me, the one and only Rina. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe. Make sure to leave any information that was left out about this movie in the comment section. I know this is one of the popular movies from back in the day, so there's probably a lot of you that know some of this information already. So, and you might know something I didn't cover. Not like I could cover everything anyways, but leave it in the comment section, okay? And don't forget to let me know some of your favorite scenes from Jurassic Park. Thanks for stopping by.